Clouds on Mars Products, a place where you begin your journey with innovative, visionary, and easy-to-implement solutions for your business.
Today, we will talk about something that we recently named as a next big thing in business intelligence, data, and analytics. Today, we will talk about Pulse, autonomous prescriptive analytics. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. This is Clouds on Mars Products. In this series, we talk about real business challenges, our products, our solutions that were put in front of us by our customers. My name is Marcin Kubica. I'm head of product at Clouds on Mars, and today I'm joined by Estera Kot, CTO of Clouds on Mars. Hello, Estera. So good to have you here today.
Pleasure to be here another time. Can't wait to discuss this. I believe game-changing concept and game-changing approach towards getting things done for the corporations that we work for and we are working for.
Yes. So when we think about business intelligence or value that data analytics teams supposed to deliver to their businesses, traditionally, we've been talking about data and making teams capable of taking insights from this data or make decisions based on those insights. And recently, indeed, one of our customers approached us and they asked us, so, dear Clouds on Mars, can you share with us your thinking, your vision on the next big thing in business intelligence and data and analytics? So we've taken this concept that business intelligence teams supposed to deliver those insights and also help business teams make decisions. But we thought, okay, how can we take this further? So how can we go beyond simply taking insights and making decisions out of data? How can we help teams make actions? Or actually, what we are looking for, or business teams are looking for, they would like to make impact based on data that they have in their ecosystems.
I'm happy to share one analogy, if I may. Like, we love reading books. And reading any book, it's not a short one. Even the book is very short. We need to spend time on it. We need to go through the book. We need to review it. And there is a time we digest what we've read. And before we start acting on some advices, some guidance we read in a book, there is a time. And what we've seen for the last year, the number of growing services that are serving us the summary of the book with actions. Why? Because we are living in a very running environment. The business ecosystem has never been faster. And this is not going to slow down. That's why we need our data to tell us more without spending hours on BI dashboards. And for me, BI dashboards are a book. We need to digest them. Do we have a time for it if you have to review hundreds of them and then emails, Teams, Slack, whatever tool you are using? I assume that you may have time, but you may use it to some other things if the data can tell you immediately the insights you are looking for. And many times, your brain is not transformed to the level of what's the column name, how to map it. Sometimes you are coming up with fundamental, out-of-the-box questions and prescriptive, and then going to predictive BI. This is the future.
Yeah. Couple of nice thoughts, Estera, and thank you for sharing. And well, I'd like to share with our audience the slide that we've prepared for the meeting that we had with our customer. All right, so this is the slide. A couple of things that we can see in this slide. Pay attention to two axes, right? We have x-axis and we have y-axis. On the x-axis, we have different stages of data analytics maturity. So most of the companies, even today, they do descriptive analytics. So they simply say, okay, what happened in our company yesterday? What happened in our company in the last month after month closure? So we simply describe the past. Of course, usually companies, they want to go further and they would like to understand the reasons behind certain KPIs. So they try to answer this question, why did it happen? So the next thing is companies would like to predict the future. They would like to understand what may happen in the future based on the data that they already have in their ecosystem. And then the last stage, at least the last stage that we can imagine now, is the prescriptive analytics. So since we know what may happen in the future, what should we do about it? What should we do to make this happen? Or what should we do to avoid whatever comes from the data? And descriptive diagnostics, this is possible using Excel. There are still many companies using Excel. It is possible with Power BI. And there are some level of automation in those processes. And now when you look at the y-axis, there is system autonomy. So, of course, the modern systems, they provide some level of automation, so you don't need to process the data. There are ETL processes that process the data for you, and they are presented in a nice, attractive way, easy to digest. But still, there is manual process in which people need to click in the reports, they need to filter, play with the filters, play with the views, and they need to manually get insights out of those reports. Of course, there may be a little bit of assistance, so some of those tasks can be made easier, but not really assisted like we would imagine. We have different assistants today, but the ultimate level is automated or autonomous insights and actually actions or impact that we are looking for. So the holy grail of data and analytics, or the ultimate stage, is when we are able to predict what is going to happen in the future. We can answer the question, what should we do about it? And we would like to do it in an autonomous way. And here's the big question that I'd like to ask you, Estera. Is technology ready for this stage?
Yes, technology is there. I love what you shared as you are talking about Copilot for business, but not the Copilot where you are asking a question and then instead of going to the report, you get the answer from Copilot because it's just Q&A. It's not the next level. The next level is where behind this Copilot, there is some reasoning based on thresholds, based on actions, based on templates of actions that we are providing. So yes, technology is there. We are ready to serve it. We are ready to govern those solutions, to measure the quality. It's rather how to map it to customer business needs. The majority of the times we are spending our time on is not to glue some tools. It's rather to understand the business and map the business needs on the flow. Sometimes BPMN diagrams, sometimes just a description of the process that then later on we are mapping on a specific tools. But yes, as a technology, we are there.
So you've just touched the problem why we don't see so many tools when we speak with our customers, when we talk to the teams, both data and analytics teams, but also business teams. So maturity of business processes, this is one reason why we don't see those processes, because business processes are not ready to be able to work with the data in such a way. There is another reason, chaos in the data. So making sure that our data is put in place in the right way. This can be a good topic for another episode, what it means to remove chaos from the data. And there is also a human resistance part, right? So, well, on one hand, we are, of course, super excited when we see AI tools. We all use them in different scenarios, different use cases. But still, when we talk about business, and we talk about making decisions, then there is a little bit of resistance. Is AI really trustworthy or reliable tool that we can use for those processes?
Of course it is. The challenge is that, again, we are the authors of AI. We are taking some model, putting the boundaries in a way how it can operate. But we are the authors. And what we do, we map the business process to the technical flow that is happening. So technology is there. But to feed this AI, you need to give us the data. And this is the biggest challenge, the chaos in data in a way that data are so distributed. many times delays, many times changes in file names, column names, with new portions, processing, tons of different caveats, under which the challenge is the complexity of the data variety is the biggest constraint here. But once we have data, we have the business process, we are in a perfect spot just to make the predictive and descriptive BI and analytics for our teams.
Well, let me use the phrase that our colleagues from Guy in the Cube use very often. Instead of all this talking, let's go to our laptop and maybe we can show a little bit of demo and, well, show what we have in mind.
With a pleasure, I would like to present you the Pulse. The Pulse, which is a tool that is aiming to tame your business to be actionable, to make you empowered, feeling empowered, and having the right tools to do and to pilot the right actions. Now, let me go ahead to a very simple demo. Let's start with the fact that almost in every business, we start our Monday morning with reading tons of different emails, tons of different reports that we have to go through. More or less, we spend not minutes, we spend hours just to kick off for our weekly work.
We basically get a lot of signals from everywhere, right? That there is something we need to pay attention to and something that we need to take care of.
Yes. And in our brain, in our tools that we are using in many different places, in many different distributed places, many different systems to log to those tools. But yes, we have those signals where instead of reading those 55 emails, you could get something which will tell you what happened and here on a business that you are driving. So Pulse is a tool that is making sure that the objectives, OKRs you are driving for example, the category or a brand that you as a sales manager you are accountable for, is under control. So instead of going through those thousands of signals, we are notified about not the signals, we are notified about the outcomes. So here we are notified one side that our hero product is out of stock, then that our main product that we are selling is having a drop with the review process, that maybe our competitor is cutting the price somewhere else. But instead of being notified over the emails and going through the reports, we are getting an alert here, but alert that is actionable, meaning that if we jump in, and my favorite alert is exactly that, a competitor is cutting the price, and we need to be competitive here as well, but we are getting out of the signal mesh informations that this is happening. We can get into the details from which data source, post data, inventory, demand planning, where the signals are coming from. But the signals are contributing to the conclusion, to the fact that we observe, so the system, Pulse, observed that the competitor is cutting the price. What we should do? Assuming that over the weekend you do not read the emails and you do not call everyone to mitigate the situation, you do not have to do that. With Pulse, you are notified about the situation and how to mitigate the situation. So you can take a look at the action plan, review what the tool is suggesting. And the tool is not suggesting out of the box. The tool is suggesting the plan coming based on the business mapping that we delivered for you and the data we connected for you here. So you get a quantification in terms of the impact of this situation, but still very informative, very actionable, because you can execute specific actions, but you are not notified only about one option, because there is never one option. We are suggesting you at least 2 to 3 options. The system is learning over time which are accurate, more which should be improved. And at the end, you are a decision maker as a business user. Here is a kind of a copilot for business tools, which you can execute. And execute in a way that it's not about, yes, we write a template of the email for you. We are basically doing that as a first step, but as a next step, we are connecting to the systems and giving you an ability to execute all of those actions connected as a flow of actions, because that's the way the business works. So you can just review, decide, and execute. So 3 clicks instead of hours spent on getting and being aware that this happened and then figuring the solution. No, it's not the era of AI, it's not the 2026, and it's not the future. The future is here when the systems are connected and we operate on outcome we would like to achieve. There was a situation, the tool informed you, suggested a plan, connected and prepared the execution plan, and you just approve it.
Very nice. Well, there are a couple of elements that I like very much about this solution. So, Estera, if you can come back for a moment to the dashboard when we see all the signals already digested and presented in form of alerts. And when we think about those alerts, there is some text that is explaining the problem, the situation that you need to take care of. But on the right-hand side, you have specific numbers, and those numbers can be collected from the different connected systems that actually contain this data. You just need to pull this data out of those systems, calculate it, and actually be able to read the risk related with certain events. That's the beauty of this solution.
Fully agree.
And then going further, so if you can click again one of the alerts, indeed, we are taking data from many sources. That's the challenge now, right? Because if there is a person that is analyzing the data, maybe there is a system that shows that there is a problem in a certain place, but it is good to understand what are the contributors to the problem that we are seeing, right? We need to understand the root cause, because then when we know the root cause, then we can attack this root cause and solve it. And then if you can go to the actions catalog for this specific problem, as you said, there is not one option, but in this case, we see 3 options. And this is not just generic description of the solutions that can be implemented. Each solution, each proposal has certain number associated with it. And knowing what is the most important element for you, you can use those numbers to make the very informed decision what you want to do. And then on the execution side, normally executing such decision requires several actions. And thanks to the fact that we can nowadays be connected to several systems and systems can talk to another system, we have GenAI that can actually write an email like the one you are showing here. We can do this automatic. You can execute actions in the transactional systems, but you can also prepare a communication to humans that certain activities should be done by other teams. So that's indeed a beautiful element of this tool.
Yes. And building on top of that, as mentioned, the tool is learning over time. As you execute some actions, but then you have an ability to provide the feedback if the suggestion was not actionable enough, not relevant. So the system is still learning in terms of the decisions. So we are starting with 3 options. But over time, the more you use, the more precise we are going to be with the recommendations. So you will land with 2 options. And imagine using this system for a few years. Over time, it will learn just to provide you one, the best option. Yeah, the second, just for a reference. But the certainty grows over time because the certainty grows with a good quality of the data. And the most important, with users who are using the tool. And that's mapped to the business processes that you are operating to.
So once again, talking about those numbers that you were showing a moment ago, right? So that's the real impact that we may get out of this tool. We are not just seeing that there is a problem. We take an action and we see the impact of this action. And also this learning, the closed loop feedback, this element, it's a nice feature because on one hand, it can reduce those actions that are not effective, that are not selected by humans, because in the early stage, perhaps humans will be deciding on the actions, but over time, knowing what decisions are made by humans, then there is a space for autonomy. And also, I know that in the settings, we plan to have a catalog of actions, and those actions can be configured by the team, right?
Yes.
Perhaps some of the actions can be really configured by super users. There will be for sure actions that will require some technical work. So the IT data and analytics team will have to intervene and maybe create another integration to be able to execute some actions, but there is a way to expand the number of actions that can be executed whenever we see a problem.
Yes, on your own. Yeah, to keep it simple, we know, again, as a user here, as a senior brand manager accountable for oral care in North America, I have a specific role in a specific company. And of course, as that's the company, I follow some hierarchy. And based on the hierarchy, the Pulse has understanding on the OKRs and KPIs you are following. So we know because of the configuration, we have a user context, and then we are blending that with actions library. As Marcin, you mentioned, this is exactly the case. That's if you take a look at the business that you run globally, the very similar actions you are taking in Brazil, in Seattle, and as well in Geneva, meaning that the learning because of the using this tool, how to really globally run the company is here because you blend the actions, how you deal with specific situation. So here, the action library is telling you what actions, what plans are standardized by your company. So basically, what's your response? What's the company response for a very specific situation? Meaning that there is a shelf space recovery needed. You do very similar things amongst those countries and cities I mentioned. So some of the actions the IT is configuring for you because the way you do business is similar across the globe. From the other side, you have ability to create your template of action that you take care of. Here, for example, imagine you want to get the pulse on the price elasticity analysis. So here you created a template, defined the category, and then the ETA to mitigate, you configure the triggers condition. The trigger condition, think about it that under the specific threshold of some data coming from, you need to act. Now you act visually because you need to review the report. Here, you say you defined what are the conditions to start acting. And then to whom you need to reply, what's the approval chain, pure simple configuration of actions. Because at the end, our job is not to read the emails. Our job is to get things done and make actions, make decisions. And those decisions many times are very similar, as mentioned, across the globe. That's why I think is the first system that is really making sure that as a global companies, we operate among some different continents and countries, we can follow the book and do action in a very standardized, governed way.
Very nice. Thank you very much for this demo, Estera. That was really impressive. Let's touch technology a little bit. So, what are the building blocks of solution like Pulse?
So the building blocks, I would love to always mention the business need. And the business need is always there, but it's not verbalized, it's not set. What is exactly the need? And here the need is that we want to move the needle for our customers to drive the business further. Not instead of having more and more people who are just reading the dashboards, but more and more people who can make the right actions. So the first element is the business process, how it's happening right now. And then we are doing the mapping of elements of the external systems that the single person is executing. And then data. We need the data. But I mentioned very simple elements of these ingredients of this soup that Pulse is cooked on.
Mm-hmm. But going a little bit further in terms of technology, for example, you showed in the demo that one of the action was write an email to whatever team, right? So we have GenAI as a building block for this element, but we have other forms of AI that are actually part of this solution. Can you describe them a little bit?
Yeah. Happy to share it, as you are raising a very solid point, meaning that we see that companies are either implementing solution based on machine learning or deep learning, which many times is just yet another application in yet another URL that you need to go to do things. And from the other side, people and companies are adopting copilots, Genie, different tools to talk to their data. The challenge is to have both of those capabilities in a single place. So here, Pulse, behind the ability that is giving you to talk to the data as well and showing you some alerts and scratching the emails using GenAI. But behind it, the thresholding, the anomaly detection mechanism are based on pure machine learning. And here is the power that it's blending through AI. And for me, with the huge love to GenAI as that helps with productivity, writing an emails, it's not the purpose of GenAI. We need more. And here we need to go into the direction where we blend GenAI as an interface to get things done.
Very nice. Very good. Thank you. So let's discuss briefly the business impact. And you've touched that a moment ago. When I think about the savings that are coming from solutions like Pulse, of course, the first element of the saving is that today we have an analyst who has to do all those actions, right? This analyst needs to analyze the data, needs to think about the meaning of whatever he or she sees in the report, then look for the causes of whatever red bars or red numbers they see in the report.
It's about analyzing the past. We are talking about analyzing the past. So
exactly.
I would love to express, give me a use case, give me a chance to show you, because once Pulse will figure out and tell you about something not obvious that is happening right now and tell you that you can mitigate the situation, you will get immediately all of the arguments to the board you need to just get this tool as part of your fundamental native business tools. It's about predicting what will happen and mitigating it. At the same time, it's about mitigating the current situations. It's not about what happened and what we've learned. It's about now and future.
Yes. So this is actually touching the benefit going beyond reducing the amount of time analysts they need to spend on analyzing data. The real saving comes from all the costs that can be avoided because we are acting on what is happening now and also what will happen or may happen in the future. We are observing that and we are reacting to those scenarios.
Imagine running a board members meeting and there is a director coming to you and saying that I predicted that in a few days something will happen. What's your next question? Based on what? What are your signals? What are your data? And that the conversation is happening, what's the probability that will happen or not? And the conversation is done. At this point in time, not everyone is capable to answer those questions. Why? Because of data, because we are still analyzing the past. And here we are talking about something what is focusing on the future. So one single discovery of Pulse will help you to save sometimes $1 and many times a few thousands of them, depending on the scale of the business you operate on.
And this is amazing. And this is why we are so excited about the Pulse. So let us discuss some key takeaways. Estera, I think for me, the one really key takeaway is that technology is there. So from engineering perspective, we are ready to implement solutions like Pulse. The challenge and the weakest point is the team or humans who did not or who has not maintained their processes properly. So perhaps some cleaning, some process improvements work needs to be done before we are able to implement a solution like Pulse.
Yes, but I would love to also challenge it in a way that imagine you have a few thousands of people who are managing different products and categories for the company you're driving. And you need to run some ceremonies to teach them, to govern them, to make them align, and to make them follow the book. And here, the tool is keeping them following the book.
Awesome. So turning to our audience, well, what I can say, if you have a process that you believe may be a good candidate for thinking about Pulse and thinking how Pulse can be implemented in your process, feel free to contact us, either Estera or me. And also if you have any other business challenge that you would like to throw our way, so Estera, me, and the rest of our team can think about it and think about a solution that we can bring for you, feel free to contact us. You have our LinkedIn contacts. You can contact Estera directly, or you can contact me directly, and we invite you to follow our Clouds on Mars LinkedIn page. And if you are watching this on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe our channel, and you also make sure that you will get notifications about upcoming episodes. So let your data make an impact. Thank you very much, Estera.
Thank you. Bye-bye.